Brian Cox.
Oh, things are going wrong. Let's try my intro again. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by, you could see it's all going slightly wrong today. We are joined by 10th Man Rising, the Adam Meakin, Righteous Force, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
What do you say? What do you say? What do you say?
Hey.
I did something, Fat Albert.
The reason for the slight issue at the beginning of the show is I have to give various different bits of software administrative control over the computer, and if you leave one of them in the foreground when you're trying to use a different one, it doesn't work. So I've pressed buttons and things haven't happened, except it has started going live. But there we go. So that aside, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, but we should make it into a comedy so we could reach people.
Saying that, Nathan, I've got a little poem on that question.
Oh, go ahead. That'd be lovely.
It's called Formerly Known as the Curve. Back in the old days, they used to say, especially when watching a boat sail away, the boat would disappear bottom first. They said this was because of Earth curve. But then in 2020, January, they discovered the black swan imagery. The distance to the oil rigs and the horizon afar proved the globe radius out by far. Finding this proof caused lots of tension and a list of globe alterations that I'll briefly mention. The distance to the sun will now have to change. The size of Venus can't remain the same. And what about time and orbits too? What's the ISS going to do? I've only mentioned a few. The size of landmass on maps would alter. Navigation and travel would surely falter. These are the things a larger radius would do. What's it going to take to convince all of you?
Absolutely epic. Really good.
That was really good, man.
That's my favourite so far. That was excellent.
Yeah, but then he comes out with another one and we say that's his favorite. I mean, he's amazing.
I don't know. The one about the Greeks was my favourite up until now. Anyway.
You have a great talent there, I'll tell you, right?
The Greeks all knew that. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Negative.
Gonna need to know.
The books say 93 million miles. The school books.
They're going to need an R value.
I'm going to need a flat Earth. I'm going to need a flat plane for a radius value.
Any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
Nah, it's really
Negative.
bugged on question number 1.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
What did that even mean?
Means evidence that we're
Well,
turning
the reference-
underneath the stars to cause a not actual deflection claimed to be Coriolis effect because we are turning and the stars are actually still. Ergo, the induced claim to be not actual deflection of the stars is as a result of Earth turning beneath them to induce a Coriolis deflection. That is the claim.
Okay. The evidence that we're moving is we don't feel it.
The evidence is that the stars are rotating. The consequence of them claiming that is that we would feel something and we don't.
But their reference frames have been ruined anyway.
That's just an anti-flat Earth idiot that's, according to YouTube, the preferred content that should be promoted above us because they don't understand that their globe claim has a claim of 2 reference frames and tell us that they're debunked. Idiotic. But that's what gets promoted above us. And we'll get hundreds of thousands of views. Somebody who doesn't even understand the claim.
If the
That's
Earth
wrong.
was turning under anything, then it would be turning under everything.
That's correct.
Let's claim to have 2 reference frames. So, yeah. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Not
You'd have
science.
to be able to observe it, first of all.
Yeah, step
I
1.
just dropped my pen.
I just watched my child's helium balloon disappear into the sky.
Oh dear.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
And not science.
Any evidence that
Observable.
Go on, one more. Observable.
Just saying the you know, things in the sky, the lights and twinkling stars, we do things that happen.
At least we got his poem.
It's called
Yeah, at least that.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up. Don't they call that observational science?
Observational
thing?
science. No, that's a. Oh God, I used this the other day. I've only just learnt this fallacy. A composition fallacy. So you're taking one aspect of the scientific method and then strap on the full title of the process. That's the scientific method by utilising only one part of it, which would be observation of natural phenomena, not just observation.
Hey, Nathan,
Hello.
what are we going to do about all this space junk debris in orbit?
It doesn't exist. No need to concern yourselves with space junk. Let's put it that way. So the claim that the space junk is no different to the claim that we're going to Mars or the moon. It's claimed to be junk in Narnia. What are we going to do about the absolutely mountainous pile of lion dung in Narnia? What are we to do about that massive problem of the lion's dung? I mean, it's just getting bigger. Have you seen any sewage works in Narnia? No. This is a very real problem, ladies and gentlemen. I suggest you all smash my PayPal link and donate to the very real cause that is the overloading of Narnia with lion dung. So I think the only real solution is to chuck money at the problem. I think that's the only real problem. I think the only real solution... I'm nearly there. One more sentence. The only real solution is to chuck money at the problem. Be it Narnia dung or space trash. Just chuck money at it. That's my solution.
Oh, I was just referencing a Joe Scott video. He has several of claims he makes about space. So
Who's
just
Joe
another
Scott?
YouTuber to go over.
Is one of them space junk?
Yes, his claim was, what are we ever going to do about all the space junk?
I wouldn't concern yourself based on the fact that there's not a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum with a presuppositional orbital rate value based on a radius value we've debunked, and a horizon that's based on an Earth curve edge falling away from you for things to fall around, to be junk to concern yourself with. We've debunked every aspect of the place that this junk's supposed to be. Likewise, you don't need to worry about the poo in Narnia, because it's not a real place. Space isn't real. Don't worry about the junk there.
Yeah, the guy's skipping past it. Like they skip past the angle in navigation. He's skipping past space and talking about something in space when he should be dealing with the fact that there is no space.
Yep. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
You could do fuck all with a curved baseline angle measurement.
No swearing, please.
Okay.
You can do plenty with an angle. An elevation angle is very useful. Any evidence that level is not horizontal?
What?
Is there any evidence that level is not horizontal?
But it is.
I can't find any evidence of that anywhere.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Earth sonograms.
Sonograms? What? For pregnant women?
Yeah, they do that on the Earth. P waves and S waves.
So they
That's how
cover it
they
in
can
like
tell.
the lubricant jelly. How do they do
Yeah,
it?
you put it all over.
Smear it all over the surface, drop a few helicopters worth of lubricant jelly, and then a godlike hand comes down with a with a little machine and moves it over and says, "This is going to be a bit cold, but don't worry."
That's how a guy explained it to me. He said it's just like when a woman is pregnant and they take a sonogram. They have done this to the Earth, and they've discovered a molten iron core.
How lovely.
Exact words.
Yeah, they're going to need a presuppositional R value and a flat plane to bounce these P waves and S waves as the return signal, but to bounce whatever they call the signal into the Earth and get a return angle, they need a flat plane. Their claims come from a flat plane.
Oh dear.
Oh, they work. They got it wrong with the Kohler deep borehole. Their predictions weren't right. So you're expecting me to assume they know what's almost 4,000 miles down in the ground? I don't think so.
Next.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Didn't we discuss this already?
It's a daily thing, Neil. We're doing the housekeeping questions.
No, but we just discussed it a few minutes ago. Without containment, you cannot have any gas pressure. We'd all be dead, right?
Yes, that's true. Well, that
We have
concludes
pressure
the
gradient, though, don't we?
gas pressure gradient. Yes, we do. Where'd you get the gas pressure without containment? Okie dokie. So we had a bit of fun yesterday with Professor Brian Cox from way back when in the after show. So this will be coming out tomorrow if you're just a general member of the public. Subscribe to my second channel. You can see the Uncut After show from yesterday where Adam dug out a really old clip of Brian Cox learning his wizardry skills and having his art honed by a producer who's trying to get him to deliver a decent line about fabrics of time bending, which he isn't doing. So we had quite a good laugh pulling him apart on that. But we're also self-analysing. We also went back and had a little listen to me and criticised. I was certainly critical of myself from way back when also. So, you know, in defence of Brian Cox. This is also reasonably old, so I don't know if we'll get through the majority of this. I don't know. Did you send this with a timestamp? It seems to have started at 2:15 10th. Is that intentional? Maybe we won't.
No, it was the one that you said, "Oh, I like this guy. I'll do him later."
Right.
We thought it was the one. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, so this is Robert Llewellyn and Professor Brian Cox, and I really like Robert Llewellyn. If you're a little bit younger than me, you might remember him from doing Robot Wars and Scrapyard Challenge, a couple of other things. But the most famous role, as far as I'm concerned, that he was in was the this guy you can't really see.
Right. You jump down,
Change the angle.
and then go into the ocean.
Oh, it does have different angles. You will get to see him hopefully in a They're in a tunnel at the moment. Anyway, he was Crichton from Red Dwarf. That's where if you're going, who the hell is that guy? I'm sure I recognise him. Well, yeah, he was slathered in about 3 inches of rubber when he played that character, so you may not actually recognise him. But nevertheless, I like the guy, so it'd be interesting to hear what the two of them have got to say. So we're going to go through this, hence rattling our way through housekeeping in under 15 minutes, which is good. So we're all ready to rock and roll. Hopefully we'll get some input from
What's
you guys.
What's the video
as well.
called?
It's called Professor Brian Cox Carpool, and it's on CarpoolUK is the name of the channel.
Go down, and so we're going to try and talk about pressure, what it does to gases and turns them into fluids, and it's just a very visual way of doing that.
Right.
So I'm going to do the last bit.
I see. And is there...
Ooh, this is already juicy. So they're talking about pressure, eh? Ooh, excellent stuff.
atmosphere of Jupiter denser than ours?
What? We're already off to a bad start with Robert Llewellyn. Atmosphere of Jupiter. So that would be gases at pressure, pressure being them pressing on the walls of their container. And that's sat in a sky vacuum, is it, Mr. Llewellyn? No, that's a violation of natural law and an oxymoron. Air doesn't take the shape of a sphere. The light in the sky that you've looked at through your telescope potentially isn't a violation of natural law. Gas in a sphere shape. Gas doesn't take sphere shapes, it takes the shape of its containment. So we're already into both of them on the same vibe. They're happy to beg the question with each other.
Ours.
Oh, well, yeah, immensely. In the core, it ends up being metallic hydrogen.
How the hell do you know? He's talking about a light in the sky. Not only has he got violations of natural law, he knows about the compression of the materials that's going on in the centre of this presumed to be gases compressing upon themselves, ever getting denser with pressure. Well, if they're capable of pressing down towards the centre, then they're capable of pressing out, as gas does, into the area of volume, as gas does.
They call it so dense and such high pressure that you've got this liquid hydrogen that essentially behaves like a metal in the middle.
Wow. Why is he so impressed with this complete bullshit? I'd have hoped you understood the second law of thermodynamics, Robert Llewellyn. Very disappointed in you. I mean, just because you played one of my favourite characters doesn't mean you should, but my expectations of you as Crichton means you've got the memory banks to know this. Surely you should recognise a metaphysical dichotomy, or whatever it is you would babble off as Crichton.
And that would you mean in the centre of the planet?
Yeah, but it's all gaseous. I mean,
there's plenty of centre of the planet-based pressure of this claim to be gas giant. So the gases are just pressing down, go boom, boom. So for this description to work, the gas only presses down, go boom, boom. Gases don't behave that way. They expand in all directions.
There may be a rocky core, but it's,
Maybe. I mean, it depends. If I want to bullshit about it, I can. I don't have to. It's entirely up to me. I can give it a solid core. It don't really matter. I'm just making it all up. But do you want it to have a solid core? Solid? Gas? It's up to you. You decide, Robert. I'm already enjoying this.
99% of the thing is gas, but then it becomes liquid because it gets...
See how his hands are moving, right? So what he's doing is he's showing gas behaviour with his hands. So what he's doing is he's got his hands and he's bringing them in. It's like, well, gas behaves like that. Does gas go in to the centre of a sphere when you assume it's atmospheric? Or does it expand out to fill the available volume? Because I'm pretty sure it does the latter.
Gets so pressurised, so it's this huge thing.
Someone did say that the first thing you'd say, the first thing I'll say when you start talking is, "Wow, they were right." I'm really, because I never knew that. I thought it was all. I thought all planets were like lumps of rock with no atmosphere.
You thought all planets were lumps of rock. Okay, so your assumption when you look at lights in the sky is that they're lumps of rock. Why? I mean, it seems when you break it down, so I want a backup from you guys. It sounds utterly absurd, doesn't it?
Yep.
So let's think of other things that are in the sky. Clouds. You know what, Prof. Cox? I'm pretending to be Robert Llewellyn. I look up at those clouds and just decide that they're clumps of rock.
That's a good comparison. That's right. Why don't they
Something
do that
else in the
with
sky.
clouds?
Well, got more information on them than we have on the lights that he's comparing these to, with maybe a molten iron core, maybe a solid core, maybe a gas core. I don't know. 99.9%. Don't know really. Make it up. I'll make it up later.
Actually, a star. I mean, it's pretty much like the sun, except it's not big enough to initiate fusion. But it's just hydrogen helium.
Why is it that you've decided that lights in the sky initiate fusion? So, I can't remember who the lady was that said that rocks are our cousins. But this is the backstory that he's presumably going to get into now, right? So, without me boring you with this.
Michelle Thaler.
Say again?
Michelle Thaler, shout out.
Michelle Thaler, right? Rocks are our cousins. Well, this is why, because what he's got is he's got fusion reaction going on in the heart of a gas giant in a sky vacuum, with the gas moving to the centre with pressure to fuse together and form other materials. Now, they can only go so far in a normal star, like our sun in the heliocentric bullshit world of these descriptions. But at the point of supernova, when these things get to the end of their life and explode because they've seen little lights in the sky do something, right, phenomena that they could be studying with science, but just make up a little story and say that that's causing a fusion reaction to create the heaviest of elements, you know, the platinum and the gold. And that happens in an instant at the high rate of fusion reactions of those sorts of materials. In other words, they're created in the hearts of these dying stars. And the process continues and continues, and it increases as the star goes supernova, and you end up with red dwarfs and all of these other stupid shit that they just come up by pulling it out of their arse. So as a result of all of the heaviest elements being created in these stars when they die, upon them then exploding, and when they explode, they suddenly change their behaviour. They don't fall in on themselves anymore. They explode outwards in the same way gas behaviour does. Yeah, in their story, they're all falling in, creating pressure to create these reactions and fuse together and all the rest of it, and create heavy elements. But when the supernova occurs, suddenly it behaves like normal gas. It just expands in all directions at a high velocity to dissipate itself throughout the universe, to eventually coalesce, because suddenly we're going to have the reverse of what's been described for it to be dissipating itself throughout the universe, for us to have gold on our planet, because some of it's coalesced together, because it's both simultaneously spreads itself out through the universe in line with entropic law, and coalesces in defiance of entropic law. But as a result of it both defying and following entropic law to explode out and coalesce, we have gold here, which has been made in the heart of the dying star. Therefore, those rocks, which eventually obviously have brought life to us out of a slime of nothing, and we've got little bits of these elements like gold and platinum in our bodies, therefore we're basically related to the rocks, because they were born out of the dying stars too. And it's all true because they made it up themselves. I mean, maybe a solid core, maybe a gas core, maybe I can say that they were fused together, maybe it's a reaction, maybe it's whatever I say it is. But ultimately, that's their bullshit story for rocks being our fucking cousins. Excuse my language. Just told someone else.
They can't drill. They can't drill further than 8 miles on Earth.
Hilarious.
Helium, there's nothing else in Jupiter, pretty much. It's a big ball of gas.
How the hell do you know? Because of spectroscopy. That's all you've got to go on.
But it looks like a planet, though, when you see a picture.
Why are you talking in this way? It looks like a planet. You better damn well know it is if you're going to start telling us about what bloody stuff is inside it when you assume it's physical and it's creating various elements with its gas pressure that's only going down, go boom boom to the centre of a presupposed spherical surface when you've got atmosphere defying natural law. I mean, what, it looks like it? Yeah, that's about as the extent of your proofsies that you get for this crap. It kind of looks like it. What kind of looks like it? Well, the spectroscopy graphs that we have make it, you know, kind of behave like helium or hydrogen, or whatever gas I say. And the fact that it's farcical to say that a gas is just existing in a vacuum, not dispersing, it kind of matches with the lights that I understand when I study similar gases here on Earth. Therefore, it's that gas, in violation of natural law.
Solid, it reflects, well, it's solid in the sense it reflects light, but it's gaseous, liquid.
Gaseous with his hands moving down, go boom boom to the centre. That's not how gas behaves, dickhead. Do you know how our gas behaves? Gas expands. It's called entropy. Yeah? Like your Sherpa at the bottom of the mountain? Farts? Nice and concentrated when it comes out his asshole. Not very concentrated at the top of Everest. That's an expansion of gas to fill space. Likewise, all the vegetation that creates all of the oxygen eventually makes its way up to the top of Everest as it expands, even with the imposition of all the other gases that are in its way. It bounces off them and bounces around until it makes its way and dissipates into all of the space around it, getting ever thinner. That's moving outwards. That's not moving inwards like you just described with your hands moving inwards, so that you've got a reason for gases to fuse.
Liquid and metallic hydrogen.
Keeps doing it. Keeps shoving his hands together like that's gas behaviour. Are you delusional? Do you not know how gas behaves?
It's like the sun. I mean, the sun's got no solid core, as it were.
Has it? How the hell do you know? You don't. Just a light in the sky.
Just a fusion reactor.
Yes.
Again, back to it's a fusion reaction. Why? Because you've studied the colours. That's basically what this boils down to, ladies and gentlemen. They've had a look at the colours. That's it.
So, any bigger and it would be like that.
Wow. Because this is, I mean...
He's really proud of himself. I'm really proud of this bullshit I've just told you. Cox is so up his own ass, isn't he? It's a shame it's total nonsense and we can rip it to shreds, Cox.
And that's the big questions that everyone, that you don't have...
Questions? Why haven't you got answers? He's just giving you a load of bullshit. Shouldn't raise any questions, he should answer them.
All the questions, there's a hell of a lot of them, but they're all about that, about CERN and about what the experiment that happened recently. And all...
Experiment at CERN? No, you don't know what experiment is, Robert Llewellyn. Clearly not exactly versed in what science is if you think CERN's an experiment. What was their natural phenomena that they were studying? Hello? Step 1, scientific method. Observe natural phenomena. Step 2, ask yourself what you think caused that effect, and formulate into a viable hypothesis. If A, my presumed cause of the effect I'm studying, then B, the effect I'm studying. Vary and manipulate A to see if it causes B is an experiment. CERN isn't that.
All that stuff is clearly, and I mean, I haven't got the first idea, or I'm...
Yeah, we know, I just pointed that out. You haven't got the first idea, but yet you're labelling it as they've labelled it when they lied to you about what it does to make you think it's science. Even though you haven't got the first clue, you're still babbling on about it, aren't you, Mr. Llewellyn? Don't babble on about science. Don't call things experiment unless you know what the word means. Clearly, you do not.
But I'm assuming, let me assume it, then you...
No, we will tell you what you need to know when your ignorance lets you down in this car trip. Don't assume anything. First rule of flat earth debate, do not beg the question. That is to assume your outcome.
Right, I'm assuming that...
Don't.
Scientifically, there's the potential...
Assuming scientifically? Now, the only thing you'd do in terms of an assumption would be a supposition of a cause yet to be validated. It's my A in the logic of the scientific method in formulation of hypothesis. If A, that's a assumed cause of the effect. It hasn't been validated yet, though, so that's the only assumption in science.
To recreate what happens in the sun.
Sorry, recreate what happened in the sun? What's the sun? You're going to recreate his bullshit description of it. Maybe physical, maybe it's solid, maybe it's a gas, maybe it's a fusion reaction. We can do an experiment to show why that happens. Step 1, observe natural phenomena. If you're studying the sun, what causes the sun? That would be the appearance of that light we see in the sky over the horizon. That's what I want to know if I'm doing science on the sun. What causes it? Not what causes dickhead over here sat with his foppy hair describing what he says is at the centre of it.
In a controlled environment on Earth.
Easy.
Controlled environment? What, for the sun? You controlled the sun, did you? So you know exactly what it is. You got it into a controlled environment. You have no idea what the sun is, but you're going forth with your bullshit ways of figuring out why it does something. You have no idea what it is.
I mean, that's a fusion reactor.
Oh,
It's a fusion reactor. No, I'm pretty sure it's a steam generator. I mean, it's got a lot of clouds around it, let's be honest. Steam generator. Look at all the clouds around it. Why? 'Cause I say so. Fusion reactor? Anybody ever see... Can someone bring up a picture of a fusion reactor, please? While we're ripping a shred off this stupid idiot, Prof. Brian Cox, I'd like to see a picture of a fusion reactor so we can see what one fucking looks like. And we're going to compare and contrast to the sun. I don't think we need a picture of the sun. I'm pretty sure we all know what the sun looks like. Anybody got a picture of a fusion reactor?
That's easy.
I'm going to Google it real quick.
Sorry? Yeah, if you can dig it out, we'll compare. Maybe it's right. I mean, the assumption, obviously, in the mind's eye of all the people giggling and laughing along with these two boneheads, is going to be that, obviously, sun, as he states, is a... What the hell is this?
That's the sun. I'm in a fusion reactor.
What the... What? What? This doesn't look anything like the sun! Am I going nuts? Anybody here think this looks like the sun?
It looks like the set on Flash. WB.
Does he know what the sun looks like?
Maybe if you squint
when you get close enough, it looks like that.
Maybe he meant fusion reaction. I don't know if that'll make a difference.
But no, he's describing it as a reactor. And it's generating the stuff that makes life. Like, all of the materials are made in the sun, you know, or other suns when they died and made all of the gold. That's what he's saying. Generating materials. Okay. I think you're an idiot. I think my steam generators are better. I mean, I was doing that to be farcical. If I showed you a steam generator in a room full of steam, you'd be like, yeah, it looks a bit like the clouds that are surrounding the sun. I mean, why not? You know, it's better than it is. What justification have you got for that?
That's the easy. We did that in nuclear bomb explosions. You know?
Oh, that's effectively all that is. That's what that is. Right.
Right, is it a nuclear bomb now? So can we have a look at that? Let's have a look and see if a nuclear bomb looks like the sun. Maybe he's right about that.
Oh, right.
A fusion bomb. A fusion bomb is a little star.
Right.
A fusion bomb is a star. Why? Because he says so.
So that's 1940s.
Oh, God, that's old.
What, 1940s that they just decided that was the case?
This technology.
It's rubbish.
So before that, was it coal? Was it a coal-burning generator before that? I mean, what the hell? What was it before that? Let's have a little look. What have I got posted in Skype? Just bring it up for the audience. What's this?
It's whatever they call it to be, Nathan.
Why isn't it showing me Skype? There it is. There we go. What's this? This doesn't look much like a sun, whatever I'm looking at on Skype. Looks like a massive machine, very complex with multiple levels in an enormous space. Okay.
That's the Wizard of Oz.
This is a sun, is it? This is what a sun is. This is what's this in the middle of the sun? Is this the solid bit? What the hell? Okay,
no, I put the Wizard of Oz because it's Brian Cox behind the curtain to fooling everybody here. We're just reacting with your video to show all the lies.
Hold on. He said something about a nuclear bomb. Well, I mean, it's not quite a nuclear bomb, but either side of these Wizard of Oz, you've got these pyrotechnics going off. And that's what they look like, right? At a different scale. So,
no, I put the nuclear bomb picture after the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, my
pictures.
bad. Oh, yeah. This doesn't look anything like the sun either.
Yeah. Manu Boo says this ish is getting deep. I concur. Share the show with your friends.
Getting deep. Getting deep. Why do I always sometimes feel like, always sometimes, feel that we were in La La Land? We were addressing the utterly absurd.
Right, but when a new person who hasn't been exposed to any of the anti-flat earthers or any of that rhetoric comes in, this bullshit is really deep when you initially come in.
Agreed.
I got
I
you.
understand
So
perfectly, Elijah.
you're saying for the hypothetical newbie we very rarely get to see of because they're watching Simon Dan right now, this would hit them like a sledgehammer.
Right.
Exactly.
That's why we're censored. That's why Simon Dan's getting the 150,000 views with whatever piece of shit incorrect assertions about his own model that he's got out currently.
So then what's the next step then? Because that shows my level of ignorance is fairly impressive.
Well, CERN, we're recreating the conditions that were present less than a billionth of a second after the universe began, which is
What? So we're going to get into a first law of thermodynamics violation now?
astonishingly hot.
Right.
I mean,
So
really
hotter than...
So Cox is about to tell you what happened in the past.
At the beginning of the universe.
At the beginning of the universe, Cox knows what happened. Right?
Right,
Why?
God.
He's going to be your God. He's going to describe you in a godlike way. Or he's at least the messenger. What is it? Muhammad, prophet. He's a prophet, isn't he?
It's a billionth of a second after the Big Bang. I mean,
A Big Bang? What's that? Everything being created from nothing? Oh, absolutely, without question, no. Definitely not. So you can't have a violation of the first law of thermodynamics, that's a law of nature, as a creator. That doesn't work. Quick shout out to Sebastian Tellio. He says, hi! Thank you for the super chat.
So nuclear explosion is, let's say...
Nuclear explosion. Okay, let's put it back on screen. It's this, is it? No, definitely not.
A minute after the Big Bang or something, which is a long time.
Right.
I mean, that 15 million degrees, the temperature in the centre of the sun, that's a doddle.
What's happening at...
How does he know it's that temperature at the centre of the sun? Has he got a thermometer there? Why? Because it's a nuclear explosion? No, it isn't. It doesn't even look remotely like a nuclear explosion. You know, so because what? You've got a temperature thermometer sensor on this, you can assert that the sun is that temperature? You've got no idea. Why are you Icarus? What's going on?
CERN, then? Because is that where are you effectively working there, or you do work there occasionally? I don't quite know what you're...
Yeah, so my academic involvement is on Atlas, which is one of the two big experiments there. Well, there are four.
Oh, back to them being experiments. Atlas? Is Atlas a naturally occurring phenomena? I don't actually know what he's talking about. Sounds like a rocket ship.
There, actually. Right. So when the machine starts working...
Machine? Sorry, isn't this science? Experiments? The establishment of cause and effect reasoning based on systematic experimentation after supposition of cause, that's your assumption, Robert, based on what you're observing to occur in nature and want to know the cause of. So step 1, observe something happening in nature. Step 2, suppose the cause of it. Step 3, vary your presumed cause to see if it causes it. What's he talking about? A machine starting up?
Which will hopefully be October.
Right.
Then they start taking data.
So it still hasn't actually properly worked yet?
No.
It hasn't worked, so you're studying the natural phenomena of a machine that doesn't even work?
Right. Because it went a bit squiddly, didn't it?
Yeah, it's only cost billions. We pissed with the other one like it doesn't matter. I mean, we haven't got a phenomenon. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, we couldn't say anything. We could say it was working. It don't matter. Yeah.
Are you recording now, by the way? Is this
yes.
part of the...
You weren't recording that one. We had a good old laugh about billions of dollars being spent on this shit that they could pay me to do.
Sorry. No,
yeah, who cares? It don't matter.
Anyway.
Yeah, billions, yeah.
Top Atlas.
Yeah,
what it is.
I mean, it works.
Oh, sorry, was that one of mine? Was that Adam?
Yeah. So Atlas. Atlas is the largest general purpose particle detector experiment at the Large Hadron Collider. Its goals. Atlas is designed to record the high energy particle collisions of the LHC, which take place at a rate of over 1 billion interactions per second in the center of the detector. Purpose. You'll like this. Good English. Atlas is one of the 2 general purpose detectors at the Large Hadron Collider. It investigates a wide range of physics, from the search for the Higgs boson to extra dimensions and particles that could make up dark matter.
Right, physics is the study of the physical. How can you be claiming to be performing a study of the physical that's a phenomena in nature occurring that you want to know the cause of. If your actual endeavour is to find something that you haven't found yet, that isn't a study of the physical, it's a study of the imaginary.
Yep.
So if I dedicated billions of pounds to the search for unicorns, could I call that physics?
If you're going to insinuate that these things that you haven't discovered yet are possibly going to be physical.
Absolutely, unicorns. I mean, how much more physical do you want out of them? I mean, bloody hell. How unreasonable, Adam.
Where's me checkbook? Let me sponsor you.
Yeah, I agree. We should most assuredly throw a lot of money at this. Billions, easily. Just to get it to work. What? Phenomena? No. That'll be created in the machine when it's working.
Which is so last September we turned it on.
Right.
And we got beams going around both ways around the machine,
Right.
which means it works.
Right.
Right, which is a big step.
So it working is light travelling around in a circle. That's it working. So is that your phenomena? If that's it working, doing its thing, then that's the thing that you're studying. Now, it's about as far removed from natural phenomena as you can get. What the hell?
Yeah.
Because you never know that these things are going to work quite. And
What by work, you mean like do something, whether or not it'll do the thing it's supposed to do. In science, you're studying something that you've stumbled across in nature and want to know why it's happening. So it's not that you can get it to work, it's getting the effect to be induced by what you assume to cause it when you vary what you assume to cause it. It working is the thing that's occurring, like the sun coming up. I don't have to worry about whether or not that'll work tomorrow. If I'm studying it as a phenomena, I know it's going to happen. I need to figure out the cause of it. But in this instance, we may or may not get the phenomena to work, and when we do, it'll be lights travelling in a circuit. That's it working. How is this something that you need to study and figure out the cause of? That would be science. Answer, it isn't. But you'll probably get some bullshit story about a nuclear generator at the centre of Venus. Once it's working, and we've got some phenomena to study.
until you turn them on. And then we had a problem with one join between two magnets.
Right.
Which was essentially a manufacturing problem.
So it's a technical issue. I mean, really, you could call it technology. But you're calling it science. So you're now going to describe the issues you're having, what, with the supposition of cause being varied and it not validating, i.e. it's not the cause of the effect you study in nature, that sort of problem that scientists face? You know, validating nulls and having to go back to the start and figure out what the hell caused the phenomena they're studying? No, you've got a technical issue. Because that's what this is. Technology, not science. But science is a much better magic word for convincing people of your bullshit when you talk about what's at the centre of the sun. So you better damn well call this science, because then people think it's empirical when you've given them a little story.
Or installation problem. But it was a join between two wires that carry...
Oh, how very boring. No offence to any electricians out there. Oh. This science is quite exciting. Saves lives, develops the technology that you can bullshit about. That's what you get from scientific discovery. This sounds like some boring technical problem.
About, what is it? About 13,000 amps.
Wow.
Ooh. You sound like some boring old fucker with a Tesla. Babbling on about the voltages in his boring car.
At full power.
Right.
At full power, I generate 514 kilowatts of power at the rear wheels in my Tesla. Really? Is this science? Oh, absolutely. Yes, it had a problem with the door not shutting. It took quite some time to fix. Science.
But they're like a piece of fuse wire. So the only reason...
So they had to connect the fuse box in my Tesla back up to the high voltage rail supply. Science.
It's not a big, thick, fat wire.
No, tiny wires.
Wow, this is so fucking boring.
And the only reason they can work is because we cool them down.
You know, we talk about science here. And when we do, I find it fascinating. In the pre-show, despite my utter ignorance in regards to the study of light, I had a bash at explaining answers to questions as I understood them when it came to the experiment known as the double slit. Fascinating discussion, 20-odd minutes of somebody wanting to expand their mind and go on the same journey of discovery that men have travelled to give us things like computers. Yeah? I advanced this boring-ass technology with its wires that don't bloody work when you're not even studying a phenomena. Yeah? We ended up with computers. That's something that actually developed out of scientific discovery. Something that actually helped mankind. What's CERN giving us? If you find the fucking Higgs boson, what's it going to do for me? When you find this imaginary thing that's got nothing being validated in terms of cause and effect. Not studying anything yet. You might be able to find the Higgs boson, and what are you going to do with it? When you find it? You're going to figure out the cause of it? You're going to start the scientific process if you find it?
Right. To minus 271 degrees, right, which is colder than the universe.
My batteries get up to over 100 Fahrenheit almost immediately when I put on ludicrous mode. I'm assuming that's what burnt through the wire. Science.
You boring old twat. Why are you boring everybody, Llewellyn and Cox, with this crap technology talk?
At the moment, the universe has got to about...
Right, well, why are we now talking about the universe? You just talked about high voltages. Is this somehow... Is the technical issue with your big machine somehow related to the universe?
Well, yeah, it's got to about a degree or so hotter than that as it's cooled down. It's in 13.7 billion years after the...
Sorry? Your technical issue somehow relates to something 13.7 billion years ago, does it? Why? That seems like a very ham-handed segue, Cox. How does this relate to something 13.7 billion years ago?
Big Bang, it's got to about 2.7 degrees.
Oh, I see. Because the temperature in your technical issue, Big Bang, millions and billions of years ago. That is absolutely garbage. Again, like I asked earlier from the panel, it's only when you break this stuff down to the point of absurdium, which is what we've just done. Technical issue on a Tesla by equivalent is now being compared to things billions of years ago. Anybody else find that utterly absurd? Non sequitur?
I do.
Above absolute zero.
Right.
And we run at 1.9, so it's cooler than space.
Cooler than space.
Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan, it's so good that you're doing these reaction videos, especially this one today, because he's just making stuff up. And because he's got this title, Brian Cox, professor, astrophysicist, whatever. This guy's like lapping it up as if everything he says is scientifically proven. And this is a good way to wake up people to the garbage that they're being fed 24/7. All you got to do is ask a few questions like you are, and you unveil everything. So good job.
At that temperature, there's no electrical resistance, so the wire can take all this huge current.
Right.
But if they heat up a bit or if something goes wrong, then suddenly you've got 13.
So he's sandwiching it in between. So he hasn't finished with his boring ass bullshit about his Tesla. He's boring everybody with it, but inserting billions of years ago in between is boring nonsense about wires and how they get hot.
1,000 amps going through something the size of a bit of fuse wire, and it doesn't last long.
It's probably not going to last that long.
So it...
Oh, God. My uncle's an electrician. No offence, Kevin, right, if you listen, I'm really sorry. But you are fucking boring. And this is just as boring.
I'm sorry. Nathan, boring is a trick because the more boring it is, the more scientific he sounds, so it must be true.
It sort of, a little spark happened, and one of our 20-odd ton magnets jumped about a foot to the left, and we squashed about another 50 of them. So we had to take them all out, and they've all been reconditioned and rebuilt.
So I had to take the batteries out because of this one little wire. Tesla said the whole battery pack had gone. So we had to take out the whole battery pack.
Oh my God. Oh God. How do your family cope with you?
They've gone back in, and they probably will come back online in September.
It's going to take at least 3 months to service the Tesla.
October. and then start taking data as soon as we can, hopefully before Christmas. So, and it's at that point because I'm more of a data person.
What? Not a scientist then? Yeah, like more of a mathematician bullshitter. Yeah, we know.
You just admitted it.
Analyze data, so the data will start coming in, and then
the data. What, the bit after the science, like the data, the validation of the cause of the effect you studied in nature, when actually you're looking for something that you don't even know exists. That would be the data that comes out the other end. You know, an administrator can deal with that. Yeah, the genius comes in supposing the correct cause of the effect that you're studying, validating it by experiment. That is genius. You're a glorified word processor if all you're doing is logging the fucking data. Because the data in science is the variation of a presumed cause to validate that which you're studying. Once you've validated it, that would be to say that you caused the effect with your supposition being varied. You can write that down. That's what you can do, Cox.
And then I'll start working again. There are thousands of particle accelerators. Most of them are in hospitals, actually. They're used to make isotopes, chemotherapy, those things. So that's how you make radioactive substances for medical use or medical imaging.
As opposed to bullshitting about the start of the universe. So they've got a practical application and figuring out the start of the universe.
X-ray machines, those things. So the smaller ones are usually used for what we call light sources now. So there's a big one at Rutherford Appleton called Diamond, and its job is to make really small wavelength light. So you can.
So it makes light. There's a study of light. It developed into what we now understand to be the scientifically validated field of quantum mechanics. Would it be that the bullshit heliocentrism narrative needs to be propped up with billions of dollars of bullshit on this machine? Because of how light's been invalidated in Einstein's mechanics? Could that be it? You know, you've got bending geodesics in space-time, warping of light with a supposed speed. Could that be why we've got this bullshit machine, do you think?
Did he not just give a little disclaimer as to what the machine now is? So we spent this $1 billion, and what we use that machine now is as a light. Is that what he said? We use it as a light now.
Yeah. I mean, but what else is it?
A shade on the top.
Pictures of things or movies of things very quickly. So you can look at cells, you can look at biological processes in cells.
Okay, we can look at cells. Okay, like with a microscope.
Are we doing biology now or physics? What's going on?
Well, a subset of physics is biology, but I know what you're saying, because what is this? Are we just, you know, as opposed to having a look at how things function in biology by looking at cells? Weren't we a minute ago figuring out things billions of years ago?
Yeah, he was telling us how you load radioactive isotopes in medicine. So he's covered a bit of medicine, which is technology based, and that. But not seeing much science.
None.
Right. Even beginning to be able to make movies of viruses entering into cells.
Wow.
Sure, you got more to say on this, right, Adam?
So you use them for the light that gets emitted when you send electrons, let's say, around in a circle. But CERN, we don't care that it's a circle, really. In fact, it's annoying that it's a circle in a way. It'd be better if it was a straight line, because we don't.
I'm pausing for it. Go on.
What validation does annoying have in physics?
It's not part of the process. How frustrating is the only perceived, just to answer you as best as I can, the only perceived frustration in science would be that you validate your null. You've still achieved something, but the overall attempt is always to validate the alternative. So when you essentially fail to validate the alternative, yes, it's wonderful that you do validate the null, but that would be frustrating, because then you've got to suppose a new cause and vary that to see if it causes it, right? That would be the only frustration. I know you weren't asking for an expansive answer. It's probably rhetorical, but there we go.
Well, it wasn't rhetorical.
I got a shameless plug.
What he found annoying was that after they'd spent billions of dollars building CERN round, it was a bit annoying because they'd preferred it straight.
Right. Go on, AI.
What?
Well, the main reason why they need it round is because they need to make circuits. And each circuit, they get faster and faster because they didn't have enough money to make long one to get to that speed. So lo and behold, one of our homeboys at CERN is actually on a campaign right now to raise money to build a new CERN on the moon. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Because they might find the Higgs boson up there. You never know. I mean, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, exactly. So donate now.
I agree.
Donate now.
I was just thinking that needs a lot more money thrown at it.
A lot more. Times are going to be tough. Austerity measures are needed.
Hit that super chat.
No, my campaign's different. No. My campaign is to solve the poo problem in Narnia. Equally valid, just as justified. Smash the super chat. Hit the PayPal link. We just should chuck money at that problem.
We don't want to send any light. We don't want to radiate light off because we lose energy.
Yes.
What we want to do is get these particles.
No, you don't want to radiate light because you lose energy. Isn't that what light is, though?
Protons, particles going as fast as you can, and then smash them together.
Right.
And then there you make these temperatures. Insane.
So you smash them together and they make high temperature. Okay. Is that the phenomena? Adam, maybe you can help me out. I'm not educated enough into what CERN is suggesting they do.
I think they might be researching new powerful microwave ovens or something.
Generates heat.
They learn how to generate heat.
In temperatures.
Right.
So you can observe the universe as it was.
Excuse me? Sorry. We're smashing stuff together, it's creating heat, but that's us observing the universe.
As it was.
As it was.
How
Yes.
and why? Because if at the Big Bang everything's going away, nothing's hitting each other. So how, by getting two protons to collide, does that replicate the beginnings of the
It's
universe?
the energy
Because they said so.
So we're conflating the energy
the whole-
levels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole premise is that when they reach certain energy levels, able to be put to particles, the particles will do things or change state beyond what they normally would at current energy levels, which is exactly why he needs his ring on the moon, bro. Because when you get on the moon, you can get higher energy levels, and then you can find out new truths.
Just have to get past that second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, and that's going to take absolute fortune, I'm telling you.
Right.
A billionth of a second.
Exactly.
Again. And that's because it's simpler. For no particular reason why it should be, but it turns out it is. As you go back in time and everything gets hotter.
As you go back in time? What? When are you going back in time? You're not going back in time, Dumbo. What do you think you are? Mickey Fox? You're not going back in time, Dumbo. When you go back in time isn't a statement I should ever hear anybody say if they're sane.
And hotter, everything gets simpler.
Right.
So all this.
Am I going nuts? Is this like 12 Monkeys description? When you went back to a simpler time? What are you talking about?
Complexity you see in the world. Things like you and me, Toyota Priuses.
Yes.
So when you go back in time, you see the complexity in things like you and me and this Prius?
They're properties of an old and cold universe. So they're...
You and him and the Prius are elements of an old, cold universe? Sorry, somebody get this guy committed. If you were in the pub jabbering to a guy with quite a yellow beard and a pipe and he said that sentence to you, you would suggest he got committed.
Right.
In all this structure and mess has crystallised out in a way.
Right.
So if you want to see the underlying simplicity, which is there, for maybe surprising, may not be. It's not, but it certainly is true that it's.
Where is where? What is certainly true? You described him and yourself sat in a Prius. This is so non sequitur. It's just baffling.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Then you go back and you photograph those conditions, basically.
You go back and you photograph them. Mickey J. Fox with a fucking Polaroid now.
Right. You observe the laws of physics as they were.
As they were, right.
You went back and observed the laws of physics. Now I'm going to assume you mean laws of nature. The physical. The descriptions of the physical. Gas expands in all directions. It doesn't form sphere shapes in atmosphere. It doesn't condense to make heavy elements to then explode out in line with entropic law, dispersing to fill the available volume, to then coalesce to make us into the rocks that are our cousins. All of that is bollocks. Every last bit of it. And every word that Cox just said, and this tosser, who I've now lost a lot of respect for, Robert Llewellyn, has nodded along to every stupid word of it.
Right, when they were simple.
Right. What? Did you want to paraphrase back to him what he just said about you and him sitting in a Prius and going back in time to take pictures of stuff?
So it's the best way we found of doing...
Best way I found to go back and take Polaroids? You didn't describe doing anything. You just said this is the best way. What is? Could you be any more vague and non-specific? Oh, maybe it's the bullshit you just talked about smashing lights together. That was going back in time, of course. Other than it wasn't.
Physics, really, at that level. I mean, physics is just understanding the forces of nature and the building blocks of nature.
Yes.
Understanding them or explaining them. Physics is giving you explanations.
The way you do that is build things like CERN.
No. The way you do that is you observe natural phenomena. That's things in the physical, in nature. And you say, I wonder what caused that. And then you suppose what you think causes it. An assumption, Robert, of the cause of the effect you're observing in nature. Now, at that point, you've already got half a hypothesis. You've got your full alternative. If A, my supposition of cause, then B, the effect I'm studying in nature. The other half being if A, my supposition of cause, then not B, the phenomena being studied in nature. The effect. In other words, you vary it and it doesn't cause it. That's a null. When you vary A to see if it causes B, that's an experiment. That's what physics is. Not building CERN and boring people with how it doesn't quite work properly, and then comparing that to going back and taking pictures in the past.
So it's not because you want to find another particle or you want to just bang things together for a laugh.
It's not because of what we're doing at CERN. It's not because of those things you've used to juxtapose with time travel. It's not because of precisely what you're doing at CERN, then.
Yeah.
Because physics has gone that way.
Yes.
Right?
So not because of CERN, but because physics has gone that way. Now, physics is the study of the physical, the study being the establishment of cause and effect relationships based on natural phenomena with systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis, otherwise known as the scientific method. Something you wouldn't have a clue about, Cox.
The direct line for Newton and Maxwell understanding electricity and magnetism and understanding the nuclear forces.
Right.
Are those scientifically validated? Or are they just descriptions of effects? Those are just descriptions, more like natural laws. Descriptions of things that happen. As opposed to scientifically validated? Cause and effect reasoning based on hypotheses? That's science. Describing phenomena isn't that. It's just descriptions. It's not explanations.
We've been led to this point where we need something that's 27 kilometres in circumference and 600 metres below the ground and a 135 megawatt power consumption.
We've got to this point where we've got a really boring description of something electric like a Tesla that we can bore the shit out of you with, baffle you with, and then tell you that it's a time-travelling machine for us to go back and take Polaroids with. After describing you and me sat in a Prius.
So has it got its own power station?
No, we use a French grid, so we're...
I like to plug mine into a high-capacity charger. It's 80% faster than plugging it into the normal brain supply. Science.
Beautifully carbon neutral because it's all nuclear.
It's completely carbon neutral, my Tesla. I only get energy from wind turbines. You are so boring.
Right, so that's fine. So it's the Green Party.
I like the idea
that
you do something that could potentially blow up everything. But you make a good point that don't worry, we're carbon neutral. It is. Yeah, he's the office nerd, isn't he?
That's what they've done. They've taken some jumped-up administrator and told him he's a scientist, while they coax him from the sidelines.
But what's he told us so far? There's
You really want me to summarise it? I can.
Significance.
You want me to? I can summarise it. I unfortunately dedicate this shit to memory while we're live. So if you want me to, I will. But it's making me twitch. I don't want to. I could summarise the shit that he's laid down. I've been doing it as we go along.
Yeah, but let's not pass that over for a second. Keep in mind that all these ventures that they're doing into these greater energy potentials, right? A lot of this concept began with the atomic bomb race, right? With what was that called? What was that secret project called? Anyway, the secret project.
Manhattan Project.
Yeah, the Manhattan Project, right. So one of the premises based in that was, well, we need to get this weapon before the enemies, right? Because the enemies are working on it as well. But simultaneously, one of the premises was, look, we're getting to the level of destroying the fabric of reality on a fundamental level, disjointing connections that we really shouldn't be toying with. And we really don't know what's going to happen. And the report that they gave to the president was, we're not 100% sure that if we do this, we're not going to blow up the entire atmosphere. Because of the chain. Right? And so you have this fear on people's minds. It's like, well, we totally need to have this, but it might blow us all up too. And it just adds to that drama.
Yep.
The same with this CERN thing. It's like, oh man, we need these answers, bro. We need these answers so hard, but it might kill us all.
Yeah. It's always back to the same marketing strategies. Always, is it Bernays that originally developed all this shit? Freud's nephew or whatever he is. It's basically just a sales strategy. And in this case, it's the death cell. You're hardwired to react to this shit. And they've known it forever. How to manipulate you, what buttons to press. They know you like boobies, if you're a guy. Or maybe a girl. We're in modern times after all. But in my example, they know you like sex. Why? Because you're bloody hardwired to do it, that's why. It's base instinct. They know you don't want to die. Yeah? Hardwired into every fibre of your being. Don't want to get hit by that bus. This might be a dangerous decision. That's all you do. All day is all your body's processing. Don't die. I like the look of that lady. Because that's what your brain does. You don't have to like it. You don't have to accept it. It's just a fact. That's what we do. All animals do it. Right, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But they work on that. They manipulate that. Let's put the sex cell to one side for a second and focus on the death cell, which they've been using for centuries to sell you cigarettes and alcohol and various other things that are very bad for you. Well, they can sell you CERN with it too, the death cell. You're hardwired to respond to this stuff, and you will, especially if it's life-threatening. Fear is the best manipulation they have. It's the best form of control there is. Fear. I think it's in a Matrix section.
In there, they have a grander scale.
I was just going to say there's a really good speech from, I think it's Agent Smith in the second Matrix, when he's trying to explain this to Neo about everything he does is driven by fear. Now, it's not strictly true, because it's obviously part of the other flip side of the story is his relationship directly, the love story with the other character, the female lead. But in this instance, obviously, the bad character is going to be focused on this aspect that we're discussing, the death cell. It's fear that drives you. And it couldn't be more true. They know it, and that's what they're using here. Anyway, I've waffled on too much. Sorry, AI, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying they extrapolate this on a universal scale and a universal time scale, which is, ultimately, whatever we decide to achieve here on Earth, in their worldview, we're going to face extinction via the destruction of our star, where ultimately our star consumes us and destroys us, and no matter what we've achieved here is lost to eternity. And so in their worldview, there's that fate for humanity, and somehow they have to escape that fate. Now, there's this thing known as the Kardashev scale, which is essentially a progress scale of civilization in the heliocentric expanding cosmology worldview, where we're not even a 1 on the scale, because we haven't been able to tap into the energy of our whole planet. The next metric on the scale is being able to tap into the energy of our star. The next level is being able to tap into the energy of our galaxy, right? And so you need all of these fancy woo-woo type technologies like CERN to even posit the idea that one day we'll achieve something greater than, Teslas and cars and stuff like that. It's like eventually we'll have giant space stations and interdimensional teleportation and sucking energy from a star like a vacuum cleaner and using it to power our iPod, 2000s. So it's all wrapped in, like you said, to this existence, which is progression, love, procreation, all of that, and death. It's one big circle of life and death that they're just playing on, just like many, many world religions do.
Yeah, it's incredibly
So that
clever.
being said, it's very elegant. It's very elegant the way they do it.
Yeah, incredibly. And you need puppets and patsies. That's what we've got here. Cox has been set loose at this point. He's been trained. He's not got the director next to him telling him how he should do this. By equivalent, that's me with QE on the early shows, still sat on the panel. Don't get me wrong, QE still joins. He's not here at the moment. But when he was first educating my dumbass in all of this stuff that I can now seem like I'm clever with, he still sat there. He is actually still sat there, because occasionally, right, I'll say something wrong, and he'll put it through on Skype, subtly. Now, typically, he's like, I don't know if he was annoyed about this, but he said, whenever I do that, it's only for you to read. You don't have to read it out. Right, no, if I'm wrong, I'll just read it out. The audience will benefit if I've disseminated something incorrect. It's almost like you want to make a retraction and a correction almost as soon as possible. You don't want to go forward with incorrect information. If you don't know, you don't know. Everyone makes mistakes, right? So when he's correcting me in the background, that's the equivalent of the director sat next to Cox, getting him to shill the right information in the right way it needs to be spun. But at this point, with Llewellyn, who's another semi-celebrity in this instance, he's set loose. He doesn't need any assistance to bullshit his way through CERN and give the death cell the way it's been positioned, because that's what it is. He's just got to talk about it for it to be what it is. What I'm saying by that is he's not Bernaysian in terms of his approach to this. He's just, he's bullshittium in terms of he's just been indoctrinated with the stuff that he needs to disseminate to the public as a pretty face. And he's doing a good job of it. So he's not like sitting there going, oh, how can I incorporate the death cell into my Bernaysian sales pitch for the heliocentric Big Bang, and how CERN is actually showing us the Big Bang in progress when we went back and took a Polaroid of it. He's not doing that in how I've broken it down and how AI's broken it down and how Adam's broken it down. He's just doing the do. This is just rhetoric. It's just going through the motions at this point. Doesn't change what it is. In other words, he's innocent in a way. Very innocent looking. That's probably why.
That's why Llewellyn's very useful here and very different to the director. The directors probably would be picking him up on this, because a lot of it isn't really properly constructed sentences even. It's just him rambling a lot, but he's fine in it because he's just got this nodding dog next to him, that even if he makes a nonsensical sentence, doesn't matter, because he's just going to be given platitudes and agreed with. So,
go on.
Do you get my point? This is him, just as you said, just totally let loose with no correction. Which is why I think it is. I mean, if you're saying you're keeping up with this and he's made a point yet, I'm impressed.
He hasn't made a point, no. But I could go through, when I say I could summarise it, I could summarise how he's describing the boring nature of the technical issues with the non-phenomena of CERN, that he studies the data that gets chucked out when it's working, and how that's comparable to an example of them in time, because they're sat in a technological wonder known as a Prius, and how that is actually the equivalent of them going back in time and taking a Polaroid of the Big Bang. That's so far what he's done what he's described in summary, to the best of my ability. Did you see a point in there?
No,
Definitely not.
See, I'm waiting. All I've got so far is it's a bit like the ISS. They've tried to make out this multi-billion-dollar thing has got some use. So he's tried to mention like medical uses that they've had before CERN anyway. It's a bit like space lettuce, isn't it? What have we learned in space? Oh, we can make Velcro. Do you know what I mean? That he's trying to justify it, but realistically, he's not said anything they've actually done. They've not even got the thing bloody working.
And would nuclear fusion remove, say, some of the slightly ill-informed fears of nuclear waste? And
now we're going to discuss power stations, are we? Because his example of it, Llewellyn, was to say that that's what the sun is. But you're going to discuss the power stations. Does the sun produce nuclear waste to make it comparable? Anybody? How much nuclear waste does the sun produce? Oh no, that's the fusion reaction that creates the gold. It just shits it out. Gold, that is. Not waste. It's not waste. It's what makes you, making the star your cousin. Because it's shitting out what creates life. It's not waste.
Isn't that a
it's gold.
Reaction?
Say again?
Isn't that a fusion reaction instead of fission?
Fission, fusion, I always confuse them.
Well, fusion is supposedly like the material fusing into something bigger. That's how basically hydrogen turns into gold.
Yeah, that's what he's describing. Yes, I thought so.
Fission is the other opposite. So it breaks down. Like actual material, micromaterial electrons are lost, and so it transforms into another material. So
yeah, and that's the waste, and the heat byproduct is going to turn a turbine. Yeah, he's talking about something that's non sequitur. In response, we'll see how Cox copes, because he might just get him back on track and say, no, the sun isn't quite like that. It's only a vague comparison that doesn't work. We'll see.
I mean, does it right?
It's in principle completely clean. So you don't, nothing happens at all. There's no waste products at all, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, at CERN, one of the things.
What? No waste products at all? What?
That's been looked at is using neutron beams. So if you find neutrons into something.
There was a heavy edit there, by the way. You can't see it in the server, but that was a cut. That was the point they cut from camera to camera. So normally, as an audience member, you're never going to pick up on this. Well, I wouldn't either if I hadn't learned how to edit in college. But when they switch camera like that, it's so that they can chunk out a bit. So presumably, he just waffled on with a load of bollocks based on the look on Llewellyn's face just before they cut.
Then it changes it. It makes it radioactive. But it can also take things like plutonium that have hugely long half-lives that stick around for tens of thousands of years.
Sorry, I'm just going through a slightly orangey, slightly orangey light.
And it can convert them into.
Hold on. Again, he sort of skirts the borders of describing actual entropic effects, doesn't he? It's back to this. I've got somebody at my door. Can you guys talk amongst yourselves for 10 seconds? It's just going to be for one of my neighbours. It'll be a parcel.
I don't know what he's talking about, but he knows a way to turn it into non-poisonous material or something. Like, what is he talking about? Sounds like a bunch of science fiction blabbering.
What he's doing. Adam.
Yes, sir.
Adam, do you think he's just playing a card for the people with the carbon footprint? You know, don't leave a carbon footprint. It sounds so political right now.
Well, I don't know. I don't know particularly what he's on about. He seemed to be talking about how the sun is working, and then he's jumped to CERN and stuff. I mean, that made sense. There aren't really waste products in the sun, are they? It's not like. So that kind of made sense what he was saying there. But then I don't know what he's jumped to, because that's part of the cut. Because he obviously just rambled.
Solar flares? Isn't that supposed to be a waste product?
No,
No, that's just an.
I think he's trying to justify.
It's been convoluted in the edit.
Heliocentrism,
I think
it does.
The reason for the stark sort of jump is because of the edit. Just suddenly, it's like not only is he non sequitur in his complete nonsense ramblings, now the editor's tried to get it back on some sort of form and track. So we're onto a different subject now. So it's like, why did you jump to CERN? Well, because that was an edit.
Nathan,
But it leaves things kind of incomplete because now I'm wondering, like, what the hell was he talking about? Because it's no longer clarified.
Who is it that said earlier? That's
welcome to the
advantageous,
club.
though, isn't it? Beneficial if he's not only boring, but it all seems highly technical.
Yes, but even with all that, I'm watching Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, and all the rest of them segue away to this global warming. And so here, Cox is talking about how CERN isn't going to be guilty of a carbon footprint. I mean, it's so subtle. You just have to know where this is all leading to.
There's things that decay away very quickly.
Right.
So you can, if you want, take nuclear waste, fire neutron beams at it, and get rid of it.
Right.
If you feel like it.
Right.
It's just quite expensive.
Fire neutron beams on it and neutralize it.
Maybe.
Okay.
That might be true.
Yeah.
But so what?
What's a neutron beam?
So what? What's this got to do with?
Not neutron beam.
Let's not major on the minors, right? Before we get into this, which may or may not be true, it's like saying, really, the wire in your Tesla got really hot and you had to send the battery. Who cares? How does this relate to going back in time and taking Polaroids of the Big Bang?
It's not.
It's just about job
dealing
security.
with nuclear waste.
Yeah.
You've jumped to now.
Yep. So let's not major on this minor. We'll just point out it's non sequitur.
Yeah. So it's cheaper to bury it.
Yes.
But if you really don't want to bury it, then you can get rid of it if you want.
Right.
Pause it and break this sub so I don't get copyrights.
He's a proper nerd, isn't he? He's like, we like to do recycling at our house.
Yes. It was in for 3 months. They fixed the wire, they replaced the batteries. They told me how scientifically validated it had been when they put it on the dyno.
But I made sure I put the paper in the paper bin, recycled it, and all scooped up all the plastic for that to go to the right depot.
Guys, that's a financial claim for the future.
Yep.
With the advent of fossil fuels being banned because of carbon, a lot of people are going to have to switch to electricity. Any form of electricity production that they have is insufficient except nuclear. So we have to shift to nuclear. So what he's doing is saying CERN has prolonged job security because we can use it as an excuse to clean up the nuclear waste that the nuclear plants create. Because right now he says they do bury it. I also know that from personal experience that they actually store it above ground near the facilities after they destroy the power. And they spend millions upon millions of dollars just guarding the old rods. Now you can just ship them to CERN. CERN will vaporize them for you for the low price of $1 billion a pop or whatever the heck they charge. Sounds like a good sell to me.
Yeah, but next thing you know, you've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Splinter and, you know.
Give me a
that
brief...
far in. That's how it happens.
It is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It happens at CERN, does it?
Because you've never seen them.
I'd rather have people fear me than love me. Fear lasts longer.
I don't know, man. What is this supposedly real? Firing neutrons? Like, what is even a neutron? Actually, not presupposedly, but actually. And how do you fire it? And how many neutrons would you have to fire at one old powering rod?
You don't. It's a big book.
Okay,
that
Arwin,
story.
just one more time, because Arwin's really not picking up what I'm putting down. Okay, there's a guy telling us about his Tesla, and he's talking about how the energy that's used to power his Tesla is renewable. And because of the renewable energy and the Tesla and the technical issues, he can go back in time in the Tesla and take photos of the Big Bang at the beginning of time, Arwin. Now, do we A, discuss just how green is the electricity for the Tesla, or do we question its ability to go back in time to take Polaroids?
Well, the environmentally
the prior.
It's a very irrelevant subject in today's age.
Thank you, Arwin. You're
So it's a good distraction.
Such a valued member of the team.
Step-by-step thing of how you got into it.
Nonsense statement is obviously just like, why? I don't even think people really want to know an answer to that because they just, at face value, take it as complete nonsense. Because, of course, it is.
Okay.
Because I mean, you've obviously got a very passionate group of followers. That I was amazed at the response on Twitter of how many. I mean, the detailed knowledge of your life was quite mildly alarming. You presumably were.
I've got nothing to say about his being a sycophant, but gotta break it up somehow.
Quite bright at school, I would guess.
Yeah.
Oh God,
It's such a poor timing.
Yeah.
Right. Sycophantism is so terrible when the person is actually acting like a complete moron.
Well, we just
That's
got
so petty.
We just now got to endure Robert Llewellyn
What
blowing
makes you
smoke
think
up Cox's ass for a few
Exactly.
minutes. Go on, Tenth.
Well, hang on. What makes you think he's acting as a moron?
Well, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he might have slightly brighter moments.
Who are we talking about? You talking about Robert Llewellyn or Prof. Cox?
Well,
Talking about Cox.
Both of them. I mean, I
he
was
said to
always
examine the
into-
data. What's coming out of his mouth?
Okay, tell me when you're finished.
He said he's a data guy. So what's? Well, I got cut off. So I'm saying Cox said he's a data guy. So stuff coming out of his mouth is data to me, and he's a moron.
Yes.
Space, right? So all I knew, and I didn't know whether it was. I was born in '68, so I watched the Apollo moon landings. Apparently,
Right.
My dad.
What are you, a one? Okay.
Apollo moon landings.
And the first thing I remember really is the Apollo Soyuz link up in '75.
Yes.
Why
for
did
me,
he say
and-
apparently?
Because he can't remember it. What he's saying is, at one, when he sat on his dad's lap, he's informed that he was sat watching the moon landing with his dad. So apparently, as in, I can't remember it, but I was sat with my dad. I'm reliably informed. That's what I think he means.
Wow.
Well, there's no big deal there.
A vague recollection of a memory means that he's super brilliant, even though he literally doesn't remember.
He's not
That's
suggesting
like,
he is.
That's like, hold on. That's like me saying I sat on my mother's lap while the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. That's why I love the Beatles today.
I was just misreading it. I was thinking like he was being apparently, if the moon landings ever happened.
No.
But it's not. That makes a lot more sense what you said now. Yeah.
If it happened on TV when he was one or not, he can't remember. That's what he meant.
For me, so there was Star Wars and Star Trek.
Of course,
and I didn't know the difference.
As he summarises what we do. They do the work for us half the time. So when we're saying, yeah, you softened up with the notions of space with all the sci-fi of space, these guys just summarise it too. So not as an astrophysicist, I was presented with all this really exceptional evidence of the sky vacuum and of space. I was apparently watching the moon landing. I don't really know, but I did see Star Wars and Star Trek. This is a useless.
Difference at all. It was just that. Want to do that. Astronomy, space. What was it?
You know what I saw? I saw him in space. That's what I saw. I saw Robert Llewellyn in the sky vacuum on the red dwarf with the last human being alive and a hologram of his bunkmate. That's what I saw. And a creature that evolved over millions of years from the ship's cat into a humanoid-like character called Cat. So that's what I saw. This guy. So while Cox might have loved Star Wars because he's a child of the 70s, I was a child of the 80s and I loved Red Dwarf.
I love it too. And how did the show end?
The Red Dwarf show?
Yeah.
Depends where you consider the end to be, because they kind of lost one of the writers. Well, they flipped between two writers on the last 3 series, and they kind of weren't the same. But in my opinion, the series ended with both writers with it as it was, at the point that they got a time drive and a faster than light drive, so they could basically go anywhere and anywhen in history. And at some point, they lost the ability to have the faster than light drive work, so they went back into a period of time that they knew their past selves were there, or future selves, I should say. Sorry, they went to a point in time that they knew their future selves would be, so that they could get the parts working on their craft. And when the present timeline see the future timeline of themselves and what they've become, they decide that they don't want to have that to be the future. They've turned into like Hitlers, you know, power greedy, evil monsters. So they just try. So one of the characters, the most Weasley character, the hologram character, who's at this point got a physical body, goes and blasts the time drive, eliminating their future characters. Because the future characters, when they find out that they won't give them the part, say, well, we'll kill you then. We'd rather not exist at all, so we'll just shoot our past selves so that we don't have to exist. In other words, it's a bit of a stalemate. But that was where they sort of ceased the timeline by destroying it. And that was, for me, a natural end to the show. But then they had another one afterwards, and there was nanobots that remade the ship that had already been lost. But there we go. It did continue.
You got to admit, it makes great movies, man.
It's all from all of that plot. All of that has come from a brief history in time. That's where all of it came from. That entire plot.
Yeah. Just sounds like what they're talking about. It's a fantasy world.
Right.
It is. I just said that. Hold on. I just repeat myself. Hold on. No one heard me. That entire premise, the plot, the narrative, the lot, with the exception of the human interaction, is basically lifted directly from a brief history. Is it of time? Yeah, a brief history of time. That's where all of it comes from. Black holes, wormholes, white holes, time dilation. All of it is current rhetoric. And they've lifted it directly from the books of the rhetoric to get it accurate. The writers, that is.
Right. But within the towards the end, they had a Freudian slip kind of thing, which was intentional, but also non-intentional, because what they ended up finding out is that this entire drama that was just outlined by Nathan was indeed actually, once they realized this, a fantasy being played out. They were just characters in a TV show.
No, that was much earlier on.
In real life, they're characters in a TV show, right?
That was also them
right. So how the series ended?
Well, no. That's also a different exploration of a different concept from a brief history of time, which is parallel dimensions in terms of them waking up in a different place. So as part of a simulation, right? You're talking about when the episode's called Back to Reality, and they all get into an encounter with something called the despair squid, which squirts them, and they all then hallucinate together that they've woken up in a computer simulation. So the despair squid kills them in their hallucination, and they wake up after being killed in a video game, looking back at the simulation pods that have been lying in for the last year and a half. So they sort of get up and go, oh, what's happened? Well, what's really happening is they've been suffering a group hallucination. And the whole point of the hallucination is to get them to kill themselves. That's why it's called the despair squid. Yeah. But in their hallucination, they dream that they're all waking up after being just playing a game that's called Red Dwarf.
Right, but I'm speaking of the one where they went to the actual studio. They went to the studio, like they woke up in the bodies of the actors.
That's the feature length one. They come out of the TV screen in the feature length one.
Yeah,
that came a series after when the writers had split up. Yes, again, I don't consider that to be part of the true series of Red Dwarf, which had its natural end with the time machine being destroyed. But there we go.
Right, but even you saying that is so interesting, because within the story isn't real. They're just actors. But then you say, no, this version of the fictional story is more true than that version of the fictional story. Isn't that interesting how when you have a fictional story, how people defend the truth of the fiction? And I was just drawing that parallel to the heliocentric model that we're presented with today, just like Brian Cox's story about the past and the future and all of these things.
Yep.
It's such a fictional story.
Yeah. He's got great points. Everyone shut up. The reason you want to react is because what he's saying is good. Just let him say it. That's an excellent point. Go ahead.
Well, that is the point. It's like in a fictional universe, differential fictions will evolve because it's not true. So it has, natural errors that will permutate when it has different writers or different presenters. For example, you have the heliocentric priest saying one thing, the anti-flat earther saying another thing, Brian Cox saying another thing. So you have varying fictions within the fictions, and each person will pick the part of the fiction that they like best to defend. And we see that play out in reality. It's very, very interesting. And, art imitates life. There you go.
Absolutely. When we're arguing about whether or not the single writer rather than the pair of them is canon, that's translatable into people arguing about an anti-flat earth rhetoric versus a globe rhetoric and whether or not it's reality. Go ahead, Arwin.
No, I made my point, I think.
Yeah, but we didn't hear it
good point.
because you were talking it through me stopping you. Go ahead.
I don't remember what it was.
Oh, that's my fault. I'm sorry. I just wanted to hear the end of AI's point because it was such a great parallel. Yeah, what you are acceptably allowed to discuss and debate in terms of things being canon in a fictional story that you followed that's had a change of writer and cast, right? Oh, I'd accept that. You totally different cast, different writer. It's definitely not the same. It's like,
right.
well, I don't accept that. Earth turning underneath. You and your reference frames are ruined. It's like you're arguing about reality. Hello? Well, we can debate this, can we?
Damn heretic.
I remember what I was going to say. Right? So, fiction. It's fiction. It's not real. But why do we defend it, or why do we exclude parts of it versus the rest? Well, it's because for human beings, their stories that are fictional, and in their mind, in their dreams, they want them to be consistent, right? One dream has to be consistent, not unstable, not completely different at the beginning to the end, because that's not a pleasant memory. You want the whole thing to be consistent. So if it then destabilizes for some reason, or the writing gets all bad, well, people then have the tendency to basically, in their mind, almost like a Mandela effect, like exclude it, right? I mean, this happens in so many series that the hardcore fans just end up saying like, oh, no, not that one. That episode doesn't belong here because that one sucked. But the rest is perfect. Because of that, the consistency.
Yeah, like Star Wars.
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either, Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, supported the Pooh in Narnia campaign via PayPal, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!